Good morning, WW Robinson. Today is December 3rd, 2018. I can't believe that it's December. Where has the time gone? Where's it gone, Faith?
No clue.
No clue. It just goes really fast. I remember when I was a kid, my mom and dad would say, time flies when you get old. They weren't kidding. All right. So I have Faith with me this morning. How are you, Faith?
Good.
Great. Ready for a great Monday?
Yep.
It's going to be great, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all dragging a little bit this morning. These weekends are just too much fun, especially around Christmas time when there's lots of things going on, right?
Yeah.
Did you go to the parade on Friday?
No.
No? So you didn't get to hear our chorus sing?
No.
Our chorus did a fantastic job at Light Up Woodstock. Good job, 5th grade chorus. Always super proud of you all. And let's see, Faith, it is day 7 in our rotation. And tell us what's for lunch today.
Philly cheese, pinwheel, sweet potato puff, green beans, apple wedges, choice of juice, choice of milk.
All right. And we have Mary here to tell us about the weather. Mary, come on over and tell all Robinson, what is the weather going to be today? What is it?
Sunny.
It is sunny, and it's actually a little bit warmer than it has been, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mary. And we have Hunter here to lead us in the pledge. So please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Here you go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Hunter. Please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, we have some birthdays, and I did not do the December birthdays for over the weekend. So on Saturday, we had Jesse Foltz, Isabella Maselli, Carson Neese, and Jillian Shirky. So happy birthday to those folks on Saturday. And then on yesterday, on Sunday, we had Savannah Bright Hammond and Tyson George. And then celebrating a birthday today is Gavin Hendricks. So happy birthday to those folks. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. And then we also had a staff birthday over the weekend. So if you see Miss Taft, please wish her a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Miss Taft. And let's see. I think that's all the announcements we have this morning. What shout outs do you have this morning, Faith?
Miss Showalter, Miss Goodenough, Miss Wetzel, and my cousin that's in kindergarten.
All right.
Lane, and my friend is in 4th grade, Warline.
All right. So lots of shout outs this morning. And before I begin reading this morning, I do want to give a quick reminder about breakfast in the morning in the cafeteria. Guys, when we come in, we need to get straight in line. We don't need to get in line, get out of line, get back in line, get out of line. The adults in the cafeteria know what you're doing. We know you don't want to go to the bus room. But trust me, by the time you finish your breakfast, you won't go to the bus room. And if you do, it will be very, very small amount of time. So please get in line, stay in line. And also, we need to fill up the tables as you come in. We don't need to be scattering all amongst the cafeteria. We want to fill the tables up, starting with over against the wall and working the other way towards the other, towards the gym, so that all of the spaces are filled in. So please help us with that. Other than that, we will read this morning. We are on chapter 71. And if you remember, the 3 Rico robots came to try to get Roz, and the animals helped Roz. So this is called Chapter 71, The Forest Assault. Recco 3 marched through the forest with steady, stomping strides. His blocky head swiveled from side to side, scanning for any sign of Roz, but he was distracted. You see, everywhere the Recco went, he was met by shrieking animals. He didn't know it, but he was in the midst of a coordinated assault. Swooper hooted orders from above. Hawks, sparrows, owls died in front of his eyes. Fink barked orders from below. Hares, weasels, foxes dashed between his legs. The forest was seething with an army of wild animals, distracting the robot, luring the terrible thing deeper into their trap. Chit-Chat leaped out from the branches and clawed at the robot's eyes, yelling, anyone who shows up on our island and tries to take my friend's mother away has a big problem, which is me. Then she leapt back into the branches. The robot pointed his rifle at the squirrel and pulled the trigger. A blazing beam of light shot through the forest and sent tree limbs crashing to the ground. It grazed poor Chit-Chat, singeing the end of her tail. She ignored the pain and scurried up to the safety of the canopy. With each stride, the ground grew a little softer and the robot sank a little deeper until he was up to his waist in thick, heavy muck. His churning legs slowed to a stop and he stood there, computing whether to move forward or backward. Recco 3 was now an easy target. Begin the bombardment, ordered Swooper. The sky darkened as a swarm of birds descended from the treetops. They swooped past the robot and splattered his face with their droppings. Bird after bird swooped and splattered, and Recco's eyes were instantly caked in filth. Don't let up, screeched the owl. Give it everything you've got. There seemed to be an endless stream of birds with an endless amount of droppings. Recco 3 let go of his weapon and wiped his filthy face with both hands. That was the moment the fuzzy bandits had been waiting for. They dashed out from the weeds, snatched the rifle with their nimble hand, and dragged it away. Tawny and Crown Point looked on from the underbrush. The buck lowered his head, and the raccoons carefully placed the rifle upon his antlers. Then the deer and the raccoons slipped into the shadows. By the time Recco 3 realized his weapon was missing, it was too late. He let out a sad electronic tone, and then, as the birds continued their bombardment, the robot turned and blindly trudged back through the muck. It was now time for the final stage of the plan. Broadfoot, the bull moose, emerged from the trees and stood directly in the path of the blinded robot. Recco 3 had no idea that his every step brought him closer to the mighty animal. When the robot was in range, Broadfoot turned and kicked back with his powerful legs. There was a sharp crack, and dung sprayed from the Recco's head. The moose kicked again, and crack, and the robot's head flopped to one side. A tear in his neck exposed a triangle of silver tubes, but Recco 3's legs kept pumping. So Broadfoot kept kicking. He pounded the robot's head with the heavy hooves, denting and crushing it into an ugly shape. And with one final crack, the head broke loose, soared through the air, and squelched into the muck. The headless robot fizzled and smoked. His legs ground to a halt, and he never moved again. Good thing robots don't have feelings. Chapter 17, The Mountain Rumble. Recco 2 stood at the mouth of the cave. Rosum, Unit 7134, are you in here? The only response was his own flat voice echoing back, but he sensed movement somewhere down the tunnel. So he switched on his headlights, raised his rifle, and marched inside. The Recco marched past animal bones and rock piles and wide cracks in the walls. His blocky head swiveled from side to side, scanning for any sign of Roz, but she was nowhere to be found. So he turned and marched back toward daylight. And then a deafening roar filled the cave. From the shadows flew a giant body. Mother Bear charged into the robot and smashed him against a wall. Then Nettle and Thorn jumped in, and together the family went to work. They rammed his legs, they slashed his chest, they muscled him to the ground. On his way down, Recco 2 squeezed the trigger. There was a flash of blazing light, and the walls began to crumble. Nettle grabbed her brother by the scruff and pulled him outside as an avalanche of rock thundered behind them. Mother Bear howled. The rifle exploded. Stones clanged against Recco 2. The avalanche slowed and settled as a cloud of dust billowed out from the cave. Mother! Nettle peered into the darkness. I'm here, said a weak voice. The young bears dashed inside and found their mother half buried. They pulled heavy stones from her body and dusted her off. I have broken bones, she rasped, but they will heal. Where's the robot? Recco 2's headlights switched back on. Stones tumbled as the robot staggered to his feet. His body was scratched and scraped. His head was badly dented. His left arm was completely useless. So, whip! It was tossed aside. Then the one-armed robot limped out of the cave and continued the hunt for Roz. Don't worry about me, Mother Bear growled to Nettle and Thorn. Kill the robot. With this heavy limp and his grinding gears, Recco 2 was easy to track. The young bears caught up with him as he was entering a grove of pines, but they didn't attack, not yet. There was a better place to finish him off up ahead. So they hung back and followed him across the mountainside. The distant rumble of the waterfall grew louder with each passing minute, and then a slash of white appeared through the trees. Soon the robot was standing beside the roiling, frothing river just above the falls. He was too badly damaged to leap over the falls or to wade through the rapids or to climb down the cliffs, but he was to continue his hunt for the target. So he started limping upriver in search of a safer crossing. There was a rustling, and the young bears exploded out from the trees. They threw their heavy shoulders against the robot's body, and he stumbled sideways onto the riverbank. Nettle reared up and wrestled the robot, twisting and shaking him with all his strength. Recco 2 felt his feet slipping on the rocks. He felt his body tipping over, and then he plunged into the white water, and he brought Nettle with him. Uh-oh. The current immediately swept Nettle toward the falls. She rolled through the rapids, crashing onto a rock, and then desperately clambered onto another. Recco 2 stood straight up, and the river rushed around him. He took a step, slipped, and disappeared beneath the water. But then he was up again. Thorn ran to help his sister, but she was pointing upriver and roaring, "Use the logs!" When the younger bear turned around, he saw what she meant. A jumble of broken logs was wedged between the rocks of the rapids, and a moment later, Thorn was on top of them. With water sloshing over his back, he forced a paw between the logs and pried the top one loose. It splashed into the river and wound its way down through the rapids, only to roll harmlessly past the robot. Then it dropped out of sight. The bear tried again. He popped another log into the river, and this one spun just in time to ram its full weight into the robot's chest. Recco 2 went sailing backwards and sank beneath the surface. When he reappeared, the river was full of heavy wooden torpedoes. One log pounded the robot's shoulder. Another slammed his face. More logs knocked him closer and closer to the falls. The current became too much for the injured robot, and it carried him away. He grasped for anything solid he could cling to, but the rocks were too slippery. So he settled for a fistful of fur. What happened? There we go. I don't know what's going on. All right, hopefully we're okay. My computer's acting up. Nettle had been hanging on to one rock this whole time, but now the robot was pulling her. She started losing her grip. She couldn't hang on much longer. Finally, she cried out, "I'm sorry, Thorn," and she let go. Nettle and Recco 2 surged toward the rumbling falls. The bear felt the robot release his grip. She watched him glide over the edge. Then she closed her eyes and waited for the end to come. But it was not Nettle's time. Reader, what happened next is hard to believe. You see, the river didn't fall away beneath Nettle. It tightened around her. Hundreds of fish surrounded the bear. They pressed their faces into her fur. They thrashed their tails against the current, and they slowly pushed her away from the edge. Farther and farther they went, gradually moving upriver until Nettle's brother pulled her from the water. The bears collapsed onto the riverbank, and when they looked down, they saw hundreds of fish looking back up. "Thank you," roared Nettle. "I'll never eat fish again." The fish smiled and sank into the rapids. "Thought you were dead," said Thorn, breathing hard. "So did I," Nettle laughed. "Looks like you're stuck with me a while longer, little brother." "I'm not little." It felt good to joke, but the bears quickly turned serious. They were both bruised and bleeding, and their mother was in far worse condition. However, it would all be worthwhile if Recco too had finally been killed. The bears crept to the edge of the cliff, and there at the bottom of the waterfall, strewn across the wet rocks, was the shattered body of the dead robot. And we will stop there for today. The next chapter is called The Chase. All right. So you can choose to be the kind of leader that you would follow and make it a great day. So long.